everybody. Welcome into a preview episode of River Valley Touchdowns. We had some great games this weekend, and we've got some great ones coming up this weekend. Brad, unfortunately, more than half of our teams are now out of the playoffs, but we've still got some teams kicking.
Yeah, but that's just it's just the nature of the beast. You know, you just eventually somebody's got to win, somebody's got to lose. We've had a lot of a good year.
Absolutely.
In this area. 8 teams in the playoffs. We had 6 home games, I believe. Now we're down to 2 teams in the area, but we got 1 team in the semifinals.
Absolutely. And, you know, I've been talking with some folks as I go around, and I'm sorry I hadn't been on camera as much. You've been able to see Scotty's beautiful face and whoever else has been on here with Brad. But as I've gone around and talked with people, people are really appreciating and liking the show and the way it's gone. I don't know did you see the message from the guy from Northwest Arkansas? Somebody sent us a message from Northwest Arkansas, said that they have a group of people who are from this area who are watching up there every week.
Wow. And
they're all sharing it around to one another, and it's like, it's pretty cool. So
you know,
people are receiving it pretty well.
When we do this, we're sitting here and there's, you know, one person over here and there's one person over here and there's a camera. You don't really know who's watching and who's watched throughout the week and that sort of thing. So it's pretty cool.
Those thousands of views come from somewhere.
Right.
But
It's definitely pretty cool. Yeah, like you said, and like we talked about last week, we've had over 160,000 views now on this show for the season, and you know, we've got plenty of things in store for us for next year, but we've still got some stuff this year.
Yeah, we're working with some sponsors about potentially making this bigger and better next year. And not just that, but to really give some consistency to it and to make some permanence for the show. So I think that's going to be good. But without further ado, we need to look at our Brangus Steakhouse scoreboard and look at the games that took place this weekend. As we mentioned, unfortunately, some of our home teams went home, local teams went home. But we still have some teams that are alive and kicking. Danville falls 49-35 at Smackover. Tough game for the Little Johns, but as we mentioned before, they gave a good fight to Smackover. It's one of those things where Smackover saw Danville on the schedule and they were not happy about it. Hector fell 38-21 to Mount Ida. Mount Ida, a very, very good team, just a couple years off a state championship. And then they played for the finals last year.
I think so.
They've been right there in the 2A, and Hector put up a great fight there after a bye. And then Dardanelle falls 21-13 to Stuttgart. Rumor has it that there was a pass toward the end zone there at the end of the game that could have potentially given Dardanelle a chance to tie. So we'll show you some highlights from those here shortly. But, Brad, we've still got Morrilton with a 40-20 win, 45-20 win over Blytheville, and Lamar with a 32-13 win over Harding. Harding Academy still available here in the playoffs, and we've got 2 teams with a chance to continue their runs to the state championship.
I think it's pretty interesting to point out this about these 2 teams. You've got one team in Lamar, who has probably been our most consistent team as the year has went on. Lamar went 8-0. You know, they lost the 2 at the end of the regular season, but really Lamar has been the team that we've talked about quite a bit this year as the season has went on. Morrilton is the team that probably was picked at preseason as to be the best team in the area. And, you know, they've been through all the things that they've been through this year, and here they are now with an opportunity to play in Little Rock in 2 weeks.
And, you know, unless I'm looking at this wrong here, I think this is Scotty's notes from last week that Morrilton's won 5 straight. That would make that 6 straight now.
6 straight now.
So they've played very, very well, coming back with not just with Jacoby Criswell. He's been back, 4 games maybe? 3 or 4? He hasn't been back that whole way.
He's been back 4 games. They lost to Alma right there in the middle of the season, and they were able to – they've won every game since then. And Criswell come back in the Farmington game, which was week 9, so they won those 2 games and then the 2 playoff games.
Well, those are 2 really good teams. It's no surprise that Morrilton and Lamar are left standing. And, you know, we want to talk about those 2 games that they've got coming up this week, because Morrilton plays Little Rock Christian for a chance to go to the finals, and Lamar plays Rising, and, man, Rising's good.
Whew. They are. One name that you'll definitely hear as a Lamar fan this week is Malik Chavis. Malik Chavis is an Arkansas Razorback commit, and, you know, you just don't see that very often from schools the size of Horizon, so that's something that definitely worth note. Chavis is a very fast defensive back / wide receiver that they have there on the Horizon squad. He's going to be a hard matchup. The thing that I look at and this is a very small look at this game, But, man, Rising beat a very, very good Mayflower team, a team that I got eyes on when they played Atkins. Now, that was an anomaly, and there's a lot of things that went wrong in that game for Atkins. But, man, just watching Mayflower, they looked good. They looked really good. So, for them to be able to beat Mayflower like that, what's a tall task for Lamar this week?
Well, we'll preview that game here in just a little bit, but let's start with the review. We've got some highlights. Lamar and Harding Academy, 32-13 win by the Warriors. Thank you, Bill, for these highlights. Bill Harshaw has been a rock star with these highlights. He's done a great job this year. I wish you guys would tell him thank you for us. And when you see him out and about, just tell him how much you appreciate that. Brad, I told you about this big timing at the Lamar game a couple weeks ago. You called me. You're like, I need to get in. I was like, just tell him you're with me, right?
Yeah.
And then they let you in. And then Bill said he got up there on Friday, and they said, "Oh, you're not Mark." And I was like, yeah, I'm pretty famous, I can show up at Lamar games. So,
right.
Lamar, 32-13 winners over Harding Academy, and Maddie will roll these highlights, and we'll show you a little bit about what happened there. And as I mentioned, Bill just did an awesome job with these highlights. But Lamar jumped out early and got on Harding Academy, and that's what you want to do, Brad, when you're playing a home playoff game. Just don't even give the other team a chance to feel like they're in the game. Before you knew it, Lamar had this one in hand, and the final score is probably not even as close as or is closer than what the game actually looked like, because the Warriors just thoroughly controlled this one.
And Lamar did what they were supposed to do. We talked about in the preview show that they needed to keep the ball out of Harding Academy's hands. You see right here in this highlight, they had some big playability, averaging 231 yards per game coming in, passing the ball, 412 offense coming into the ball game. So they needed to be able to control the clock. They needed to be able to control the ball. And the thing that I've seen out of Lamar the last 2 weeks is execution. And, man, they have done a great job of doing what they do. And it has paid off here in the second 2 weeks of playoffs now, because, to be honest with you, both of the teams that they've played coming into this game, Atkins and Harding Academy, had better players. And look at this play right there, man.
That's your play of the week right
That's
there, friends.
Huge. Huge play right there. And I'm
Brady
sure
James jumps up on his back. Odell's that kid.
That's a big play, and it will be the play of the week. So, but, man, they played two teams that were supposed to be, as far as offensively, much more explosive than Lamar. Lamar always has brought the strong defense, the physicality into these two ball games. I think that has helped Lamar. They're going to have to hit Rising next week. That's one thing that they can do. If they can bring that physicality to the game, it gives them an opportunity to be in it.
Man, that Malik Chavis, his name, it had completely slipped my mind. Golly, you're gonna have to catch him.
Yes. Well, I mean, the Razorbacks right now, if you watch them on the field, they're not very fast, and that's one thing.
You've either got speed
or you're chasing it, and that's one thing that Chad Morris has put an emphasis on. So this kid can run. You know he can play.
So Lamar, as you mentioned, they're very well coached. We know Coach Jones is going to have a great game plan and a great opportunity for his team to compete. We're going to talk with him after the break as we go on to preview the Lamar Rising game, but I'm sure he'll obviously know way more about them than we will, so he'll be able to give us a better look at that game, and a recap of this one as well. But we know that they're going to put in a great game plan and give his guys a chance to compete. But that's a tall test, man, going to Rising and playing.
Absolutely, but
they're undefeated 11-0.
But here's the thing. I mean, when you get to the final 8 or the final 4, we got the big classes are in the final 4, the smaller classes in the final 8. When you get into that, you're going to play good teams. It's just part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, let's look at the Morrilton game, because they took a 45-20 win over Blytheville. Brad, I know you've got some stats from that one, because Morrilton does things up big time as far as statistics go. But big win for the Devil Dogs there on the road at Blytheville. And so they've gone from, what was it, Texarkana? Or El Dorado?
Well, it was.
So they went from one side of the state to the other.
Well, they were going, if they had won and Texarkana had won, it was going to be.
Beat them, that's right.
Yeah, but it ended up working out best for us, because we get to go to Morrilton on Friday night. But anyway, I'm just trying to get some total yardage here. But Jacoby Criswell, 17 of 25, 209 yards passing and a touchdown. He also had 78 yards rushing, so he had 287 total yards.
I'd say his knee's okay, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I would say that if he's not fully healthy, I hate to see him when he is, that's for sure, especially for all these other teams. Guy that we talk about quite a bit, Xavier Clemens, 74 yards on 31 carries. He got the ball a lot, but guess what? That guy found the end zone 3 times.
That's this guy's a
Three times.
touchdown scorer, huh?
In fact, I'm going to pull up some stuff on him in just a second once we move on. Reggie Toney, 5 catches, 124 yards for Morrilton and a touchdown. Clemens had 3 catches. Terry Franklin had 4 catches. Mason Adams, who's their leading receiver, he had 4 catches. Again, another overall good roundabout win for Morrilton. Morrilton jumped all over Blytheville in this game and was able to basically set the tone. That 45-20, I believe,
Yep.
the final score. That wasn't as close as that game was as well. Morrilton had that game in control from the first quarter on. They were able to just do what they needed to do to win. A great victory for them, having to travel 230 miles one way to get to Blytheville.
There's nothing in Blytheville except for Ryan Martin.
There's that's true. That's true. There's nothing in Blytheville but Missouri, Tennessee, and Kentucky. I mean, it's way up there. Way up there. But anyway, they did a great job of traveling that far, being able to set the tone. You know, a lot of times when you ride a bus that far, and I know
jacks your legs up, man.
Yeah, I mean, it just takes a long time to get acclimated. So great job by the Morrilton staff. And here we are again. Morrilton is the team that everybody thought at the beginning of the year was going to be the team that was the best team in our area. Yeah. I mean, this was going to be, even probably more than Russellville in a lot of cases, the team that was going to be a team that played for the state championship or played for the opportunity to play for it. So here we are now. Through all the things that Morrilton's been through, they've got 4 losses on the season, but now here they are playing their best ball at the end of the year. They've got their best quarterback back. The offense is clicking, but boy, they've got a tall task. Yeah. I mean, my goodness,
Little Rock Christian. That one's going to be a fun one to preview.
It's going to be a lot of fun. Yeah. Little Rock Christian is a very good football team.
Yeah, and from the teams that were not able to make it to the next round of the playoffs, Brad, 21-13 loss for Dardanelle against Stuttgart. I believe we've got some highlights from that one as well. But Dardanelle played very well in that game. We're told from folks that were watching that were around the area that Dardanelle acquitted themselves very nicely as far as they looked to be well coached. They may have been outmanned as far as physically. Jordan Metcalf, their all-everything quarterback, out, and they were having to kind of scramble to make things happen offensively. But for them to go down there and have a chance to win, that tells you that the coach put in a great game plan, that the players executed pretty well. And to go down on the road to a perennial power and have a chance to win, man, hey, that's a good kick. That's nothing to sneeze at as far as having a great year.
Yeah, they did. Dardanelle had a really good year. We've talked about Dardanelle quite a bit this year. They had a couple losses there toward the end at Ozark and at Mena. But, man, they had a very good season. And
just wish we would have been able to see him fully healthy in this game.
I agree. Metcalf could have made a difference for them, especially, you're talking about a 21-13 game. I mean, if this game was a blowout, you couldn't say, well, Jordan Metcalf probably wouldn't have made that much of a difference. But here you are now. You've missed your starting quarterback.
Everything has to shift from
exactly.
there.
Everything has to shift. But also it's just the fact that we feel like that Dardanelle probably would have scored a few more points than 13 points, and the defense acquitted itself well. And Dardanelle's always physical, man. They're always physical at the point of attack, so they were able to do some things against Stuttgart that they were probably a little bit surprised. But, man, at the end of the day, Stuttgart was 9-1 on the year. They lost their first game, won 9 in a row. This was a very good football team that they played against. And, of course, I know that emotions were high with the fact that Josh Price was on the other sideline.
Yep. Former coach from Dardanelle, now the head the athletic director and head coach for the Stuttgart Rice Birds there. So it was one of those things. I'm sure Coach Vega put a little bit extra into the film room this week to kind of prepare and make sure that he did the best that he could to put a good product on the field, knowing each other's tendencies is probably got a lot to do with this game. But as we mentioned, the shifting that takes place when a player gets hurt, especially in high school. You've got so many guys who he's the starting wide receiver, but when the quarterback goes down, he has to slide over, and it just changes everything. So I really do hate the fact that Metcalf wasn't able to play, so that you had to kind of move things around. And instead of a guy who may have been one of the receivers or one of the running backs having to take the snaps, they and get the ball thrown to them or get the ball to them in space. They have to be quarterback, and it's just it's unfortunate. But as we mentioned, Dardanelle played well enough to have a chance in this game to win, and I know their fans are probably disappointed, but it's a great season for them nonetheless. I think if you would have told them before the year started, hey, we'll give you this. I don't know. Maybe they're competitive enough that they would say, you know what, no, we'll play it out. But I think a lot of teams in the state, most teams in the state, would have said we'd take Dardanelle season anytime.
Oh, for sure. I mean, anytime you get a chance to play a couple rounds into the playoffs, you can definitely say it was a good season. Dardanelle was picked third in the 4-4A starting out. They ended up third in the 4-4A. So they really met expectations. I don't think they met them like they thought they would because nobody anticipated that they would lose that game at the end against Mena. But at the end of the day, Dardanelle basically did what they should have done. And, unfortunately, they lost their quarterback, and unfortunately, they had to go on the road to a very tough place to play. I mean, Stuttgart is one of those teams, here at the end that has a chance to play a couple rounds, maybe even go to the state championship game if things fall right.
Well, let's look at the other two games. Danville fell 49-35 to Smackover. As we mentioned before, that was going to be a tough one anyway, but going all the way to Smackover, that's probably another one of those. I've never actually been to Smackover, but I feel like there's not much to do around there either. Danville's probably found themselves in a familiar situation as they're going to a place there's nothing to do. And then Hector falls 38-21 to Mount Ida. Both of those teams, Brad, kind of ran into a buzzsaw.
They definitely did. Danville, played that game at El Dorado, but it's just.
Oh, that's right. The field conditions were terrible. That's right.
Matty could probably pull it up because he's so good at what he does there. But the trip from Danville to El Dorado, that's a long trip. I don't know how many miles, but you're probably talking close to 200 miles there. And I know that Danville was able to, stop and do a walkthrough and all that. That's what Coach Crane said that they were going to do. 3.5 hours. It's a 3.5 hour trip. In fact, it's probably easier to get to Blytheville than it is to get to El Dorado because there's no interstate down there. But anyway, all that being said, Danville, they acquitted themselves very well in this game. I mean, I'm watching the scoreboard and I'm saying, oh, wow, Danville is in this game. They're right there at the, they're in it. They're, a lot of people didn't expect them. They've got a chance. And, they were tied, and then they'd go down to score, and then they'd tie. And then I looked, and they were down 28-14. I thought, well, here we go. But here they go. They come back, make a little bit of a game. And in the fourth quarter, they were down one score, and I think they had the ball, but were unable to score. And then Smackover was able to score and then pretty much push it out. Once you get that 14-point lead in the fourth quarter, it's very hard to overcome. Unless you play the Arkansas Razorbacks, and then
you can do whatever the heck you want. What doesn't Smackover have some recruits that are?
Smackover definitely has some guys that I know Arkansas is looking at one of them for maybe next year. It's Jonathan Monica's cousin.
Yeah.
If you remember the former Arkansas Razorback basketball player.
That Jordan Jones, the
Jordan
player
Jones,
now, he's got a family member there.
Yeah, he does as well. I mean, they've got athletes, man. I mean, they beat Junction City, pretty easily.
Wow.
So they're pretty salty. And, I mean, they're a team that, could play Boonville, could play, one of these other teams, Prescott possibly, in that state finals. I mean, they're one of those teams that is expected to be there.
And then our final game, Brad, we've really come to really like the Hector fans and the support we've gotten from the Hector Wildcat Nation out there. But they fell 38-21 to Mount Ida. We talked last week about how that was going to be a tough game, and it's one of those things where you kind of wish when you looked at the bracket that they didn't have a bye before that one. Not that they would have rather played somebody, just to get keep their legs underneath them, keep their routine kind of the same. But Mount Ida is a very, very good program.
Man, I'll tell you, one of the most important or impressive things, and I know this is moral victory territory, and you're talking about the playoffs. There's not a lot of moral victories to be had. But the fact that Hector was able to score 21 on Mount Ida, coming into the game, Mount Ida was giving up 9 points per game. One of those games, they gave up 34 points, so you could subtract 34 points and then take one game off, and that's really probably closer to their average, because that 34 points was an anomaly. So really, it was probably closer to like 6 points per game for the season. And Hector was able to, with that offense, was able to get 21 points. they did a good job. Here was the thing that Hector had to be able to do, though, knowing that they had to be able to keep Mount Ida down, and unfortunately, they gave up 38 points, and it just wasn't in the cards for Hector. But man, like you said, Hector and their fan base has been unbelievable to River Valley Touchdowns this year. Rolled out the red carpet for us as the season has went on.
They fed me once. I think they fed Michelle. They were really nice to us. And then they brought food back in for us. Yeah,
stacks of food. So the hospitality at Hector's been good. Of course, Hector, they support the Wildcats, man. They do. And they're through and through. And what's funny is, I'm looking on Twitter, I guess this morning, and they were like, hey, boys, it's football season now, or basketball season now. Come on out and support the Hector Wildcat basketballs. They play Atkins. They do play Atkins tonight. It's just one of those things. Hector takes a lot of pride in their sports teams. And you know what? We're glad to be a part of that. We really are. We're glad to be just a small part of bringing that Hector pride and Pottsville pride and all of that, man. I mean, there's so many teams and so many areas that have pride. The thing is you get to have a little bit more pride when you have a successful season.
Yeah.
Hector had a successful season this year.
Absolutely. You go to the playoffs, you earn a bye, you play one of the better teams in the state, and there's nothing to really hang your head about. Obviously, you want to win. You want to. There's only one team that's super happy at the end of the year. You know what I mean? So the rest of them kind of have to take their moral victories, if that's what they want to call it. But it was a good season for Hector. We do appreciate all the support from them. They're probably a good chunk of the 160,000 views that we've got from Hector and people who've shared from Hector. So,
well, let me say this about Hector. Anytime that we put a hit of the week out, or if we put a play of the week out and it had Hector on it, you could almost assuredly get 2,000 views on it. And that's big time. That helps us big time. I mean, folks, you don't understand that when we can put something out there that says, hey, you're going to get 2,000 views on it, that's valuable. That's valuable to them. It's valuable to us.
Yeah, it's a good thing for our local business partners who have sponsored and made the show possible. So we do appreciate everything you've done to help us. That would have been a little intramural pitch. That would have been a touchdown right there.
Yep.
The guy had his arm, so I can blame him not doing it.
Well, thank you to Janice for that. We seriously, Janice, you've been so great to us as well, and I know that you love your cats, and we'll definitely be out there for basketball season as well, and we're glad to be a part.
Absolutely. Maddie, we need to hit a break real quick because we have rambled on for as long as we have without taking a breath. So we're going to come back and we're going to preview Lamar and Rising. We're going to talk with Coach Josh Jones, and then we'll look at Morrilton, Little Rock Christian. Man, that one's going to be such a shootout. I can't wait to talk about that one. We'll be back right after this break. A proud supporter of the Russellville Cyclones and all the local student athletes who make sports in the River Valley so great, Randy Adkins of Adkins & Associates wants to wish the best of luck to all the local teams and say, Go Cyclones!
Brangus Steakhouse is a locally owned business serving the River Valley and visitors since 1995. Offering steaks, ribs, chicken, burgers, and salads, there's something for everyone. Brangus is proud to serve only choice steaks and offers a kids menu as well as daily specials. Check them out on Facebook by searching Brangus Steakhouse. And if you're up for a real challenge, see if you can tackle the 4-pound steak, which is free if you can eat it within an hour. Brangus Steakhouse, open Monday through Saturday at 1509 East Main in Russellville.
Make that short drive to Russellville and see why so many people are buying the right way. At Phil Wright Autoplex in Russellville. Hurry in for incredible savings like up to $12,000 off the 2018 GMC Yukons and up to $8,000 off the 2018 GMC Acadias. Ride in comfort in the GMC 2018 Terrains with up to $7,500 off. Hurry in for $14,500 off the 2018 GMC Sierras. Phil Wright Autoplex is the right place to buy, and there's a reason why we've been awarded the best auto dealership in the area for up to 9 years straight. Exit 84, just off 540, Russellville. Find new roads at Phil Wright Autoplex in Russellville and see why so many people are buying the right way, like up to $7,500 off the 2019 Chevrolet Equinox. or drive away in a 2018 Chevrolet Cruze starting at $14,599. Find new roads with a 2018 Chevrolet Malibu up to $6,000 off. And don't miss up to $14,500 off the 2018 Chevrolet Silverado for 43 years. Phil Wright Autoplex has been the right place to buy, and there's a reason why we've been awarded the best new car dealership in the area for the past 9 years straight.
Welcome back into our preview show here on River Valley Touchdowns. Mark Freeman, Brad Caldwell, joined now by head coach of the Lamar Warriors, Josh Jones. Just celebrated a birthday. Happy birthday to you with a win over Harding Academy. It's one of those show him what he's won kind of moments you get rising this week. How's it going, Coach?
Good, very good. I tell the kids every year that I want to be playing football on my birthday. That'll get you to the quarterfinals.
There you go.
Absolutely. Well, that's good news. Well, give us a little bit of information about this Harding Academy game. Obviously, we had a man on the ground there, and we got some good highlights from the game. But tell us a little bit about how you guys earned that victory.
You bet. Harding Academy, they're a very tradition-rich football team, and we came in with a really good defensive plan to shut down the running game, which we did. We held Harding to 32 yards rushing in the game, and so that was huge, making them a one-dimensional team. They did manage, 265 or something through the air, but they couldn't find the end zone, and so the defense did a great job of keeping them in front. Tackling when they did catch it. And, the offense put it in the end zone. We had right around 300 yards on offense, but managed 33 points out of that. So that's a great job putting it in the end zone when we had opportunity.
So it sounds like your game plan was to take them out of their running game, and then for you guys offensively to just continue kind of doing what you do, huh?
Absolutely. And, we threw a couple of touchdown passes in this game and kind of threw a little bit of the kitchen sink at them with some formations and this and that. And, luckily, some of those things paid off.
Well, let's look forward to this week's game. You got Rising. For those that don't know, Rising's 11-0. Their closest game on the year was a 30-14 win over McGee. And, Brad, I was doing the research before the show. They score 44 points a game. They give up 8 points a game on average. Coach, what do you got for Rising?
Well, I tell you what, I think they scored 600 points on the season and given up 100. That's amazing. They're a very, very good football team. I believe, Rising has somewhere around 7 or 8 state championships. They've got a Division I commit with a kid named Chavis, and he may not even be the best kid on the football team. They've got a 10th grader that I believe his name is Fry, that is apparently going to be, he could possibly be a 5-star kind of guy.
Oh, wow.
And so, they definitely will be a big challenge for us. Going in the game, they run the ball right at you. I feel like on the year, that's been the strength of our defense is stopping people's running game. The only team that really ran it on us was Louisville, but they run it on everyone. But we held them to their season low in points. So, we're hoping that, we can find a way to stop them, maybe cause a turnover or two, and sustain drive.
Coach, what do you do when going into a game that a team is going to be faster than you? How do you prepare for that?
Well, you have to control the ball. When you set up the defense, you set up the defense to have the angles. If everyone does their job, they're going to have position to keep them from running outside. You can be faster than somebody, but if I'm 6-yard head start, you're not going to be able to get outside. So you just have to do your job. Don't get sucked inside and then they bounce it. You're not going to catch them from behind.
Well, Coach, we want to move to the offense at some point, but before we go any further, we do want to look at the defense that you guys have got. Just some guys up front that you're hoping to be able to disrupt there on the defensive line. I know a couple of these guys. I know Tristan Straighthorst is one of the most athletic kids I've ever been around. This kid's like 250 pounds, can do a standing backflip. Wow. He's just a stud, and he's a rock in there. I've seen him play. I saw him against Boonville make some plays. So who are some of the guys up front that you're going to rely on?
Yeah, we got Blake Stepp is a kid that plays nose, and, he's right around 6 foot, probably 220. And, he was on my 4x1 sprint team last year in track. And so he's pretty fast for a big kid. And he's done a great job all year. Dice Ross, he's right around 200. These guys aren't huge, but they're athletic, and they can get up and down the line of scrimmage. Braden Grace is huge. He is a huge kid.
He is big.
6'4", 6'5", 275, 280. And so I'm sure he'll get quite a bit of playing time on the defensive front this week. And Jonathan Mays and Drake Backus will be more than likely those two guys will be our defensive ends this week. And Rising does quite a few things where they block down and kick out the end. And so we're going to count on those two guys to really clog it up.
Absolutely. Well, let's flip to the offensive side of the ball. You mentioned controlling the ball, and one of those things you mentioned is keeping them from the edges. But the other one, they can't have the ball if you've got it. So what are you guys going to do offensively?
Well, basically all year long, if we can push the other team, we win. And so, on film, it may be tough just to line up and push them. They're big and athletic. And so it's all about staying disciplined this week, doing your job, trying to hit the right angles. It's probably unlikely that we're going to bust off a 60-yard run, but that's just not who we are. We're going to have to get 4, 5, 6 yards at a time and move it down the field.
Well, Coach, I'm looking forward to seeing your game plan, because that's one of the things that I noticed come watching a few games this year. It would seem like, well, this team's going to do this, and what's Lamar going to do to and so you guys always ended up with a really good game plan. That's a testament to you guys as staff. I know you talked earlier on, and we talked before about the sports banquet, and you've got a assistant coach there, Cliff Jones, who was a winner of the assistant coach of the year a few years ago, and you've been a finalist for the actual coach of the year. But you guys have got a great staff. I'm sure you guys are going to put something awesome together. You guys, I hope you're getting prepared this week.
Well, I hope we, you never know exactly what the other team, they plan over there too. So it's one of those punch, counter punch kind of thing. Hopefully we can put together a plan to try to contain those guys. And it really comes down to they're going to try to push us around, and we can't let them.
Well, let's just go ahead and say it now. We're going to be rooting for the Warriors this week.
Yeah.
As a Clarksville guy, it doesn't happen very often, but I do root for my Warriors when they're out and about playing in the playoffs. But we thank you for your time. We thank you for visiting with us several times through this year. We're looking forward to doing it, hopefully going forward as you guys continue and hopefully get a win this week.
All right, thank you for having me. Go Warriors.
That's Coach Josh Jones. Lamar Warriors taking on Rising. Brad, 11-0, 44 points for, 8 points against per game. Lamar has absolutely got their hands full in this one. And as Coach mentioned, they're going to have to do what they do, but at the same time, they're going to have to be playing one of the best teams in the state, bar none, and they're going to have to figure out how to stop them.
They absolutely are. But, I think what he's talking about is what we kind of talked about a little bit with Harding. And I love that he said, that they took away one aspect of the game. It was one of the things that Scotty and I talked about on the preview show was they had to take away one of those things for Harding. Harding threw for 265. I don't think that Rising's going to come out and throw it. They're going to try to run it. They're going to try to use their speed to the edges, and it's going to be up to Lamar to do their job. I love how he put that. And the best defense is always a good ball control offense, and that's what Lamar's going to try to do. Now, the question will be, can Lamar push on Rising enough to be able to get those 4, 5, and 6-yard carries?
Yeah, that's going to be I don't know anything about the beef that Rising might have up front. I figure they're probably pretty well stacked everywhere. But to Lamar, yeah, and some of the big guys that they've got, if they're able to move the ball, I don't think this is going to be one of those games, in other words, where you're going to see a bunch of trick plays. This is going to be like, all right, it's 3rd and 4, we're going to run it.
Yep.
We're going to try our best to put a hat on a hat, and golly, that was cliche as ever. But
Lamar needs to keep this game low scoring. They need to keep this game in that 3-touchdown range, 21 points. If they keep rising down around 21 points, I think they can get enough there. Maybe they can win the game 22-21 or something like that. You've got to
go for 2.
You got to count on it that it's going to be a close game. If you're Lamar, you're probably not going to blow these guys out unless just fluke things happen where maybe you can recover fumbles and that sort of thing. And that's another thing on the other side. You don't want to turn the ball over. You don't want this thing to start snowballing on you, because if it does, it could get ugly.
Yeah, you don't. Yeah, that's never a good thing. All right, the last game that we want to preview, Morrilton, Little Rock Christian. Brad, I think you're going to be there with bells on, huh?
I'm going to be there, absolutely. We're going to be on the sidelines there, and getting everything that we need to get for the game. But man, I'm excited about getting a chance to see Jacoby Criswell play for the first time. All the hype, all the things that we've heard about him. I'm excited, man. This game, you've got Justice Hill on one side, who is a Razorback point guard commit, by the way, and then you've got Jacoby Criswell on the other side. This quarterback matchup you can't ask for more in a high school game. The athleticism that Hill is going to bring is going to be big time, and it's going to be hard for Morrilton to stop. This game is going to be high scoring. If you can't score 45 points, you're not going to win this game. Morrilton having the home field advantage, that's a big time thing. The thing that stuck out to me, Mark, is 638 points. 638 points by Little Rock Christian this season. They've got one loss on the season. It was to Pulaski Academy. It was the game that Hill was hurt. So they've got their hands full. There's no doubt about that. But, hey, let's go back on the other side. Say Morrilton's got that Little Rock Christian has their hands full with Morrilton too, because this team has been a different team since Criswell come back to the field.
Yep.
It is going to be something. They've got common opponents here. They played Greenbrier, Valonia Fair, and Parkview. Fair pretty similar to each other. The one thing that sticks out to me is that Little Rock Christian did beat Parkview by 20, Morrilton 28-26. So we'll see how that goes. Fair is not a great team, 47-12, 63-7. Valonia, they played each other, 43-21. This was the game before that Criswell come back. This was the game that saved Morrilton's season, by the way. 35-28 in overtime, Morrilton won. And then they played Greenbrier, where Greenbrier Christian beat Greenbrier 56-13. Morrilton beat them 37-7 again before Criswell got back. They scored 45 at Blytheville last week. They scored 49, I believe, at Farmington. Parkview did do a good job on him, but I think they've been in the 40s ever since Criswell's been back. So
from that one game,
I look for it, man. I look for this. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a lot of fun to cover this game, and we're going to be at Morrilton, guys. You guys that are if you're watching from Morrilton right now, we want you to share this with your people, because River Valley Touchdowns is going to be there. We're going to cover it heavy, and I'm going to tell you right now, if you guys win,
full court
press on you.
If you're a River Valley Touchdowns fan, if you're a fan of River Valley football and you've rooted for one of these teams throughout the year, but you want to go watch a football game this week and you don't want to drive to Rising,
there you go.
Morrilton's your shot. You're going to go watch two. It's going to be It's going to be football on grass. Basketball on grass. Where Morrilton and Little Rock Christian. I don't know what Little Rock Christian has defensively, but I would assume that with Criswell and all the weapons back for Morrilton, that they're going to be able to put up some points, and then it's just going to be who can stop who and who's going to get the ball last.
Can Clemens get some yardage? It might be in the Morrilton's favor to be able to run the ball a little bit.
Yeah. That clock's got to expire a little bit.
A little bit, because I think that even though that Criswell is back, I think Little Rock Christian is probably a little bit more explosive than what Morrilton is. But, man, that home field advantage in the semifinals of the playoffs, you can't ask for a better situation for Morrilton, especially for a team with 4 losses on the season.
Yeah, how did they get home field?
It was just tiebreakers and all that. They fell into the second seed. And then Little Rock Christian was the second seed in the Central. Morrilton's on top of the bracket. So that's how that worked.
Yeah, I gotta love those brackets, the way they're drawn up that
Yep.
way. It worked out in the local team's advantage, so we'll
Yep.
just go ahead and give it to them there. All right, well, this is our review preview. We appreciate you joining us and being a part. Hopefully next week we're doing more than just a review. We'll be previewing a couple of games with Lamar and Morrilton going forward. That would be incredible, especially, I mean, going to a state championship game would be pretty sweet, but for Lamar to beat a Rising team that is that stacked would be huge. I mean, we're pretty well homers, but we're also realists. We understand that's going to be a tough hill to climb for Lamar. We know that Coach Jones and his squad are going to be ready to roll, and we're just going to have to see what they've got, and same with Morrilton.
Absolutely. I mean, that trip to Rising's a long trip, and that's always a factor. We've talked about that a little bit today. But man, Coach Jones and Lamar are going to be ready. Morrilton's going to be ready. It's going to be a good week for the playoffs again and again, man. When you're playing in the quarterfinals, you're playing in the semifinals, there's nothing to hang your head about no matter what happens.
No, absolutely not. Well, we want to say thank you to everybody who's watched the show from one of these other schools. If you're just watching to find out what happened in your week in this loss, for, if, say, you're a Dardanelle fan or if you're a Danville or a Hector fan, we appreciate you guys being with us throughout this season and making this possible. We hope that you'll continue to support the show and support what we're doing here at River Valley Now, so that we can continue to do our best to cover your schools, your student athletes, the events and things that are going on that matter to you. So we appreciate everything that you guys have done for us, and we hope, as we mentioned, that next week it's another review preview and not just a review. So we're going to get out of here and say thank you once again, Brad. Morrilton on Friday night.
Morrilton on Friday night, and I will be there. And like I said, well, hopefully next week we're covering a state championship preview. That'll be awesome. And of
really
course,
cool.
Lamar as well, trying to get to the semifinals of Class 3A.
Absolutely. Maybe we can string this out 3 more weeks. We'll see.
That'd be awesome.
All right. Well, we're going to get out of here. Thank you all for joining us. You guys have a great week, and good luck to Lamar and Morrilton. Y'all have a good one.